Let's talk about house hunting in Barbados.
It's been so long. I'm so excited because we finally moved in.
After calling, we finally got 3 yeses. All our expectations were crushed. Okay, so we want to find a house in Barbados. We've been living in Airbnb for about 2 weeks now. And all our expectations were crushed because before coming to Barbados, we thought there are so many listings online. There are so many listings on the Facebook Marketplace. It will be very easy for us to find an apartment here. You see, in contrast, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there are not a lot of postings for rent on Facebook Marketplace, and there are probably no websites either because I never found from there. I usually get through newspapers or through people recommending directly, like I know someone and things like that. So we're very happy, and then when we got here, we had booked the Airbnb for 3 weeks. It was now time for us to find a house. We initially wanted to have separate houses because I came to Barbados with a couple of my friends, and I was expecting my siblings to come join me in February, about a month later. So we wanted to get about a bedroom, 1 bedroom for 2 of my friends, and then I was going to get either a 2 or 3 bedroom depending on my budget. However, what we didn't plan for was the pricing. After a couple of days spending time trying to get people, here are a few things we learned about finding houses in Barbados. Number one, they are going to ask for your passport. Before anyone will show you any house, answer any of your questions, you must send them a copy of an identification document. So either your passport, driver's license, whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, we only had a passport, so we had to submit that. But if you have something else, that would also work. Then number two is that when you submit your passport, sometimes they will ask you to fill out a form, and it's only after you've completed all the criteria before they will agree to book a date to view the place. The second thing we found out about finding a house in Barbados is that almost all the realtors and agents share the exact same listings. So that means that if you talk to person A and they tell you they have 3 houses, if you talk to person B, it's probably the same 3 houses. There are very few houses that maybe 1 or 2 agents have or have access to. So you don't need to talk to everybody unless you specifically see a house that this person is promoting that you haven't seen anywhere else. So that was number 2. Number 3, we found out that all the websites, the houses had not been updated in over a year. Many of them were already rented. None of them were available, so we had to start from scratch. And then when we looked at prices for houses, we discovered, well, renting a 1 bedroom or a 2 bedroom, the houses were usually small and they were in locations that were not exactly favorable. So when that happened, we had to re-strategize. Okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we decided that we're going to live together. That way, we'll be able to get a bigger house, which usually came with more like space and a better location, and then we'll split the bills and split all the payments. Now, we're going to keep this in mind moving forward. So we decided to look at 3 bedrooms, we decided to look at 4 bedrooms, and I mean, if possible, 5 bedrooms. Initially, when I came, I was like, I definitely want a house with a pool. Trust me, by the time I saw the prices for the houses with pools, I became very humble and I forgot about the houses with pools. So we're now looking at house options after calling and submitting passports to probably half of Barbados real estate agents. We finally got 3 yeses to booking, like places that were both available and within our budget. And that's where we started to see the houses. So we're going to go see 3 houses. All of them have at least 4 bedrooms, and they were located in different parts of the country. So we have the East Coast, the West Coast, we have I don't know if there's a South Coast, but the most popular places are like the East Coast and the West Coast. So the West Coast is like the part that has all the tourists, nice places, bars, all of that. Very expensive, so that was definitely off our list. The second part was like the East Coast. That was more, favorable. It was like intermediate between expensive and good value. The northern part of the island was definitely out because it was far from everything, so we didn't want to even consider that part. But never say never. And let's get started. So I'm going to show you house number 1 right now.
Will I cry? Will I leave behind crumble signs.
Go downstairs and then there's a room there.
Okay, so house number one is a 4-bedroom located in St. James. Beautiful house. It's more on the like antique age side, but nonetheless, it's a really good house. It has 4 bedrooms. 3 of the bedrooms are upstairs, and there's 1 bedroom downstairs. The bedroom downstairs has some kind of detached situation where it has its own parlor, it has its own bathroom and toilet and everything, like it's detached from the rest of the house. You can actually just come in and go out through that particular without disturbing anybody. And then when you go upstairs, you see the rest of the house. So there are 2 bedrooms there, the kitchen is there, there's a parlor, like the main parlor, and then it also has a really nice balcony overlooking the pool. So it also has a pool, which I really like, because I anticipated that Barbados was going to be hot, and I was thinking, okay, we really need a pool. The good thing is that the house comes with pool maintenance and garden maintenance. Something else that was a huge perk of this house was that it was like a minute walk to the main road, and there was a bus stop next to it, like very close to it, which means we would not struggle for transport because we didn't have a car. And then it was also close to like a mall, shopping center. It was like a perfect location. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys the price right now. I'm going to tell you guys at the end of the video when I show you all 3 houses. So I want you to guess how much each house costs per month in the comment section. Something else to note was that this house did not have electricity bill, Wi-Fi, or any of those utilities included. We had to sort that out by ourselves. So here is a tip if you're looking for a house in Barbados. Keep in mind that you may not be required to pay just the first month and security deposit. You may actually be asked to pay a last month. In St. Vincent, I usually pay the first month and a security deposit in case of damages in the last month when you're leaving. But in Barbados, some of them ask for like first month, the last month you stay in the house, as well as the security deposit, so that for some reason if you decide to leave, you don't have to pay the last month and they already have their payments. So that's something to definitely keep in mind if you're like creating a budget or looking for long-term listings. So if you're looking for shorter term listings, depending on the time of the year, they might have different prices. In fact, one of the houses that we looked at, the lady told us that the price was twice what it used to be. The person that was living there had lived there for a couple of years with his family, but it hadn't been inhabited for a while, and they had brought down the price before they showed us. So I'm going to show you guys house number 2 right now.
And I've been calling on my ghost. I put it to rest because
Oh, they said it was 6-minute walk. Alright. That means that, ooh, look at this house, futuristic, looking like a bank. Hello. Beware of dog. Dog does bite. Also beware of my son Kunle, who tries to sell the house. This one is 65.
House number 2. So house number 2 was close to the northern part of the island, Speedstown. The reason we consider this house, despite how far it was from everything, was because it was ridiculously cheap. So compared to the other houses that we've been looking at, this particular house was very cheap, and it was also a 4-bedroom. At least that's what we thought. So we decided to give it a shot. Now, from where we were living, it was quite a ride getting to where the house was, but I was like, it's better to check it and say, okay, it's a hard no than to miss out on a good house opportunity. And besides, we didn't know a lot of people in Barbados, so it didn't matter if like we were in the central part of the country, because we would mostly be at home working. Anyway, our only criteria was like they had good internet connection around that area. So we eventually got to the house in Speedstown. The first red flag for us was that it had a hill. Now, Barbados is generally a flat country. To find a place that has a hill is serious work. So we went up the hill, we went around and looked at the house. We went and looked at all 3 rooms, which looked really good. And the rooms were a good size. They all had their own bathrooms and toilets, compared to the first house that one of the rooms upstairs had to share. So the master had its own bathroom, The downstairs room had its own bathroom, but the upstairs room had one Jack and Jill situation, and we couldn't decide who was going to stay there because there had to be a shared bed and a shared bathroom between the two rooms there. So that was one of the problems that we met. Then when we got to the Speedstown house, after taking a look at it, we found out that it wasn't actually a 4-bedroom, but it was a 3-bedroom with a library. I don't know what you call it, like a small office-like area. And since we needed 4 bedrooms, it was not conducive. And there were other things that, like the kitchen needed some repair. And remember I said that we were really on a time crunch to move into the house, so we did not have time to wait for them to start repairing like the kitchen, the cabinets and all of that. So we just said no. However, he also showed us another apartment of his that was just in front of the house we went to see. It was a new build. I believe it was a 2-bedroom apartment. It had a very tiny parlor. I think it would have been perfect for somebody living alone, or like I don't know, somebody. It felt like a bachelor's pad. It wasn't huge, but it had the right amenities. Everything was new. And but when he told us the price, it was like, well, that's not even going to happen, because we were considering it for maybe one person to move into that one apartment, but that didn't work out, so that was definitely off the list. And that's how we came back home after seeing house number 2 in Speedstown.
I'm on the train headed back to Indiana. The rain is forming into rivers outside, writing down all the things that I miss, and in the letters you take form. No, I won't go back tonight with the habits of the restless.
All right, so house number 3. This particular house I didn't have a lot of footage for. The reason being that when we went to take a look at the house, the current tenants were still inhabiting the house. They were in the middle of moving out. It was a nice family. They had 2 kids and a dog, and I didn't want to intrude on their privacy, so I just have a short clip of the outside of the house. But when we went to the house, there are a few things that stood out. Now, the house was huge. It had a huge compound with gate. It was gated. It had a basketball court. It had a pool. It had like a jacuzzi situation. I think there was even a grand piano in the house. So it looked like a very cool place for all of us to live, until we went and started looking at the rooms. And I can't remember, but I think it had like 2 or 3 rooms or something like that. And then it had this huge staircase in the middle of the house, which occupied most of the space. And then the last thing that was a deal breaker was that the house, you had to have a car to be able to live there. In fact, leaving that place and going back home, it took us over an hour to try to get the van. So it was going to be impossible unless we had a car. So that just removed house number 3 from our list completely. By the time I finished seeing these 3 houses, and these were the only available houses, every other house was like a 1-bedroom, or like one of those houses in the West Coast, which is like where the nicer area of Barbados is. And those houses cost anywhere from as high as 10,000 Barbados dollars or 5,000 US. I even saw some 7,000 to 10,000 US per month houses, and those were definitely out of our budget. So I hope you've already let me know what your guesses are for house number 1, house number 2, and house number 3. What you think, how much each of them cost per month. And then I'm going to tell you which of them we took. So at the end of the day, we didn't pick any of the 3 houses. Now, house number 1 was too expensive. House number 2 was too far. And house number 3, we didn't have enough rooms. So 3 of them automatically were disqualified. But at the very last minute, dying minute, we were able to find a house that had 4 bedrooms. It had been recently evacuated, and each room had its own bathroom and toilet. It was nice. It had a huge parlor and all of that. Now, for privacy reasons, I'm not going to show you guys all of the house yet. However, I'm going to show you a couple of clips from inside of the house. It's a really, really nice house, and it was reasonably within our budget. Something that shocked us again was that we had to pay the first month, the last month, and the security deposit. However, we were just eager to move in. We had to go get Wi-Fi. Something else that the house we finally moved into in St. Thomas, which was closer to where we initially wanted to move in the first house, St. James. One of the reasons why we chose to move to this house was because like it was perfect, the landlords were reasonable, and it was actually vacant. Then the second thing that made us move in was that the house had bathrooms for each room, because I'm just tired of sharing bathrooms at this point in my life. So it was a really, really huge plus. There was no sharing, nothing. It was really nice, and the bedrooms were big. There's a lot of closet space, so that's a huge plus. Now the downside of this house was that we had to install Wi-Fi. We have to pay our own electricity bill. We have to pay our own water bill. So there's a bit of cost there that adds to the price of the house. All right, so I'm going to give you the prices of the first 3 houses, and then I'm going to tell you how much you pay for this house. So the first house that was in St. James was about 3,850 USD per month, no utilities included. And then the second house in Speedstown was around 1,500 USD per month, again no utilities included. And then the third house we went to see was around 4,000 USD per month, no utilities included. And the house that we finally decided to move into is 2,200 USD per month, no utilities included. So we managed to find something that was, less than the initial house that we wanted, but not as expensive as every other thing that we had looked at. Now obviously our house I think I have to mention it. Our house doesn't have a pool, but I really like the neighborhood. Neighborhood is nice. Everybody is really nice. It's like a mind your business kind of GRA-ish community. I say that because everybody has at least 2 cars parked in front of their house. We're the only ones that walk on foot, which is interesting. But people always have the same reaction whenever they see the house, because it looks huge, but what they don't realize is that like there are 4 or 5 people living inside the house, and we split all the bills, and that's how we're able to afford the house. So the house is big enough for me to have my office inside of my room without any like disturbances. I have quite a lot of stuff inside of my room and everything, so that's pretty good. So that's it. If you're looking for a house in Barbados, good luck. It's not an easy feat, and I recommend starting to look like 3 months ahead. Something I definitely do not recommend is like trying to rent a house before you leave wherever you're coming from. You're wasting your time. You just get a horrible house, and the lease is 1 year, which means if you try to break your lease, you definitely lose your security deposit and some other things. So you want to at least book an Airbnb for 1 to 2 weeks. You can call and book appointments with agents or whatnot, but do not pay any money for any house without actually seeing it. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.